show too. So I appreciate you letting me on. I had fun talking to you. It's nothing about that. It's just that for my own stuff. It's like, another regular gig is probably just a little too much right now.
I hear you.
So, but I appreciate it, and I've had fun talking about these books, and these are great books to be talking about. So,
Since this is the last issue of the Apocalypse storyline, I definitely wanted to see if you want to finish that off at least.
Absolutely, and feel free to if you do want to reach out to me for other ones, that's fine too. I might, but I'll probably will be saying like no. If you get tired of me saying no, that's like fine. Don't worry about it. Then I'll have to keep an eye on what books you have coming up, and then I'll be like, hey.
Yeah, I was going to say, if there's any books I'm ever covering, I say on my head speaks, I'm going to start covering The Power of the Atom here soon.
Oh yeah, that's pretty.
So,
that's pretty fun.
Between that and I say my Starman show and this show, if there's any shows you ever want to be on, any episodes or issues you want to cover, definitely let me know.
Yep, sure, I can do that.
So I love talking to you. So, all right, well, let's get going with this episode then, so we can get done. So you can get on with your life.
Oh man, let me tell you.
Am I coming through fine?
Yes,
hear me fine,
I can hear you just fine.
Okay, we'll see what happens.
What I found sometimes. I'm sorry. You were starting.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say that sometimes with software like this, sometimes the audio will improve without the video playing. So if we find ourselves too much with a lag problem on audio or anything like that, we could try turning off the video.
Yeah. If it comes too much of a problem, we'll try that.
Okay.
Let me see if I can.
And now I'll be
Lexi.
quiet. Now I'll be quiet for you to do your stuff.
I need to keep it down. I'm recording. As soon as this plane flies overhead. The wireless, make sure that's not going to cause any problems. So I'm hooked up with a cable at this point.
All
right. And 3, 2, 1. And welcome back to Task Force X, episode 52. This is kind of a special episode because it's the conclusion, I guess spoilers, the conclusion of the Apocalypse storyline for Suicide Squad. But before I get to that, let me introduce my special guest. Yes, once again, I have a special guest this episode, Tim Price. I didn't scare him off last time, so he decided to come back once again. Welcome back, Tim.
You didn't. Well, I do read Suicide Squad, so it does take a lot to scare me. I was a little scared, a little, but can you blame me? But I'm here ready to rock.
I don't want to be here half the time. I don't want to be here half the time. So, but before we get to the Suicide, we do have to cover. This time, we're going to talk about Checkmate number 24. This was cover dated of June of 1990, but it was on sale November the 28th of 1989. The cover price was $1.50. The title of this was called Peaceful Nights Part 2. The page count on this, I don't normally mention that, but this time it's 25 pages. There was an extra page of content for this, and then the following. The writer of this, as always, was Paul Kupperberg. The penciler, Steve Irwin. Inker, Al Vey. Letterer, Johnny Mack. Colorist, Julianne Freder. And the cover credits was done by Steve Irwin. And this was edited by Jonathan Peterson. So our synopsis, Peacemaker continues his efforts to track down the man behind the assassination of several scientists. He identifies the killer as a man named Flowers. He is, however, surprised when he finds out that Pierre Mazarin, the chairman of Disarm International, hired him. Peacemaker arrests Mazarin, but he does not learn who he's working for. Meanwhile, Kalia Campbell continues her investigation into the identity of the mercenary named Bishop. Her top two suspects are Checkmate Knights, Jacques Renard, and Winston Churchill O'Donnell. And let me see real quick. I had a note here, but I don't see it now. Okay, let's get that. I don't know what I was going to say. So real quick, this information all came from Mike's Amazing World of Comics. But let me address this real quick, both the synopsis and the information I read. But let me address this real quick. If you haven't read this storyline, or if you've forgotten it, do not read Mike's Amazing World Comics at this point. Unfortunately, they give out spoilers and they announce who Bishop is. So, and again, I've edited that for my podcast, but yeah, as I was looking at Mike's, I was copying and pasting information. I'm like, what? Wait, what? Oh, man. So, anyways.
Yeah, spoiling a comic
I don't know if you go to Mike's
40 years ago. So, yeah.
Not a big issue, but when you're reviewing it, and maybe some people haven't read it yet or don't remember. Like I couldn't remember exactly who it was.
Oh, right.
So, but let's go and take a look at the actual issue. So on the cover, we have the Checkmate logo. We have Kayla standing in front of the monitors with Bishop all over it. She's pointing her finger at one of the Checkmate knights whose back is to us. His helmet's off. This knight has dark hair, black, or it's a color kind of blue like they do but it's dark hair. And she says, "I accuse you of being the traitor." So let's start with Tim. Tim, what are your thoughts on this cover?
It's a pretty dramatic cover. I do call shenanigans that I don't really think the story does this, but hey, that's all right. I had actually fallen out of buying Checkmate monthly by this point, but I had picked up Bishop's first appearance from Janus Directive, and I was intrigued enough about that mystery alone to pick up this issue and the next one. So I did actually read them back in the day, and I went to reread it for this, and I was like, boy, I don't remember this issue at all. It's just like completely not my memory of it. But I do love the cover. It's a very good cover. The various characters all look really great. Great to see Steve Irwin's artwork on the front there. The picture of Bishop in the monitors is very nice. And the knights in the front's like, well, the black hair, I don't know if that really is a giveaway or not, because I don't remember. I didn't read Mike's Amazing World spoilers, so I don't remember. I'll have to read number 25 to find out for sure. But I will say that this, I did kind of notice this, but a person on Twitter pointed out to me very much. I post like what I'm reading on Twitter as I go, just for fun. And it's been great to see the feedback that people give me. But also, and on Twitter, I'm at TimPrice17. I'll just get that out of the way. And for one of the people who was following me was like at MadMike613 writes, "I accuse him of having a butt that rivals Dick Grayson." And it's like, yes, that is right there. That is so much what this cover has. It's like now if you want to ignore it, you can't. It's like, yeah, that's definitely happening there. But it's a great image. So it's like, yeah, he's got Nightwing's derriere before Nightwing was as much of a thing. It's like it's a pretty good, pretty impressive. And another person, Brian Gooney, he's one who talks to me quite a bit on Twitter. Hi, Brian, nice to see you out there. Is at NJ Paragon. He writes he did like the Knight uniform design, and it's like, yeah, even from the back, it's a very simplistic design and elegant, but just really, really eye catching. So this is a pretty great cover. What do you think of it?
Oh, I agree 100%. It's a great cover. It's one that I love. The only problem is kind of like what you mentioned. The only problem with it is that, yeah, she's saying I accuse you being the traitor. But again, there's two problems with this. One, like you said, we don't really get this in this issue. And second, I'm hesitant to say my second issue with it until next issue for spoilers reasons. So
gotcha.
I can hold off my second problem until next issue. But yeah, it's a great cover otherwise, but other than it not actually, and I want to say this would probably be a better cover for next issue, but having looked at next issue's cover, that's a fantastic cover.
I do remember that one. It has two knights fighting.
Cover.
It has two knights fighting, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with Peacemaker laying on the ground near him, and it's a very, very dramatic, very, very great. Yeah, it's a great cover.
It's a good cover. Oh yeah.
Wait for the car to go by. Okay. And you've covered the cover pretty, we got a Nightwing butt pre-Nightwing. Well, actually not pre-Nightwing, but before Nightwing's butt was really a thing, I think. And again, as your friend over on Twitter said, and I say every episode, I love the design of the Knights. Even from behind there, it's a great costume.
Right. Absolutely.
But other than the two problems, fantastic.
I will also say that
some thoughts on
the word balloon on the cover. If you are a big fan of word balloons on covers, it's this one. This one's your baby. It's a great job on the word balloon. And even though it doesn't really apply to the issue, if you like that, you're going to be set with this one.
Very much so. Well, let's go ahead and, unless you have any thoughts on the cover, let's go ahead and move on to the issue itself. What are your thoughts on the issue itself? I've already covered the synopsis. So what are your thoughts on the actual issue?
Well, it just keeps this. There's obviously a story that it's building up to. I mean, we can see that there's so many things going on. In fact, it's almost a little too much stuff going on in a way. And it's part where I go, do I find the parallel storylines to be too much of a distraction, or is it just like, no, it's pretty exciting that much stuff is happening. Viewed as an ensemble cast, they're not going to have the same storyline going along. It's kind of one of those things I think that might have been what made me kind of lose interest in this book, is that being an ensemble cast and not getting that, kind of think it more as like a team book where there might be still different things going on, but they all kind of tie together and are all part of like the same storyline. When you're a team book, you just get more characters, but this is more like an ensemble book. So when I think of TV shows like Hill Street Blues or LA Law or something like that, there's a lot of things going on. So it, on the one hand, that makes it feel busy, but if you have that mindset of it being an ensemble cast, then it's like, oh yeah, this is awesome. It just keep rolling all these various points along, and have a great time with that. So like looking at the individual storylines, it's like I'm most interested in actually more the Pacemaker storyline. I want to see where that's going. I want to see that resolution, and really kind of surprised of seeing the Scotland Yard detective starting to figure things out at the same time Peacemaker is, and just like
Carl Schuyler,
right? Exactly. Yes. And just want to see like where that's going. It's got to be going somewhere with it, and I just can't see it. But it's interesting to me to see that they've got a different player kind of insinuating himself into that mystery. So that one has been more interest the most. It's like, not that I'm like, I do want to know the Bishop storyline. I do want to see the resolution of the Bishop storyline, but it's like still the Peacemaker part actually grabbed me surprisingly strongly compared to last issue, which like had Peacemaker big table on the cover. It didn't quite sit with me there, but in this one it's like, oh, it's building, it's going, come on, I just want to see where it's going. So that's pretty exciting.
Oh, very much so. Yes, I agree 100% on that.
And it's like, boy, it's also just to have in the middle of this, we have I forget his first name, but Stein, our director, Harry Stein, thank you. The director of Checkmate, and him having to go through a custody hearing of his kids in the middle of all this insanity. Again, that's like subplot or ensemble cast, whichever way you want to take it. That's like still a super important personal life thing that's happened, a personal drama in the middle of all this espionage drama. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool to see happening here. But yeah, that's a lot of my thoughts. Like, yeah, the Bishop mystery. It's like Yeah, I it's so funny that yes, I did read this. It's like I do not remember how this resolves, and I'm very carefully not scrolling down too far on the Mike's Amazing World page now that you said that there's spoilers on it. I'm kind of being careful. It's like I actually get to I 60% sure I know which one it is. 60%, but there's just that little bit of doubt left. So I'm not quite there.
And yeah, which on Mike's Amazing World, if you've never been there, it lists the comic title, and then it lists who works on it, and then it lists the characters in the book. And then below that has a synopsis. In the character listing, who's in the book, it breaks it down by hero, villain, supporting characters. In that listing somewhere, it makes mention of who the villain is, of who Bishop really is. So,
okay. So I need to.
I was.
My bad eyesight is helping me then, because I got it on the screen there. It's like I'm not quite. I'm just like glossing over it. I'm not focusing on it. So it's like, but I think actually I'm going to have to stop looking at it. I'll have to put something else up on the screen just because I don't want to see it now. Can't take a chance.
Yeah, I don't only look at that really if I'm looking for like someone's next appearance or see where they appeared last. But I copy and paste that whole section. I want the synopsis and the book information. As I'm deleting things I don't need, my eye ran across that one line. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I didn't reveal that. But, oh, wait a minute, man.
I hear you.
But yeah, since you're wanting to wait, I'm not going to mention anything else about the cover and anything else at this point. But there's some comments I could make about that I'm going to skip for now. My thoughts on this. I love the Peacemaker section, but also love the Bishop, the Bishop mystery portion. And also, like you said, I love the Harry Stein going through court, battling for his kids, having been a single father at one time that went through the courts for custody of his kids. Luckily, my ex-wife never showed up. I'm the one that filed for custody to get full custody of him because she would never show up or anything. So luckily I didn't have her, she was causing problems for a while. She would call CPS every time she'd see the kids and say I was beating them and they were bruised and stuff. CPS come out and take a look. I'm sorry to bother you, Mr. Moss. So, but yeah, when it came to court, I sent just briefly, I sent, paperwork to her. She sent it back and saying that I wouldn't let her see the kids. We came to court. The judge read that. And he looked around. She wasn't there. And he's like, well, I know what credit to give this. So luckily, I had just the opposite of what Harry's got here. I didn't have to worry about that at all. But like you said, Harry battling for his kids while we've got the whole Bishop mystery going on. Someone possibly is working against him. So he's got to worry about who it is and warn about his wife, trying to get his kids away from him. Yeah, that man's got a lot going on. So I really feel for Harry having, like I say, been in somewhat of a similar position, but not as bad, nowhere near as bad. Let's face it.
Right.
But yeah, I just love that. And like you said, Interpol detective Carl Schuyler, I think he's doing a great job as a detective. Again, it's been 30 years since I've read these books. I'm wondering, I don't remember. I'm wondering if he maybe becomes a Checkmate Knight or involved with Checkmate at some point because they're so heavily focusing on this third character. Because we have our Checkmate Knights doing their stuff. We have the Bishop. Not really a subplot at this point. It's, like you said, it's an ensemble piece. But then we got this other guy he's tied into Peacemaker. You could do the story without him. So I'm wondering if they're going to try to tie him in more. Well, I guess we'll wait and see. And as you said, I love Peacemaker. And as I've talked about, between his interrogations of the captive and just his insanity of seeing his dead father all the time, having conversations, blasting missiles at him at the building. It's just, I love that insanity. You get a lot of insane characters. I mean, the Punisher theoretically could be considered insane. Guy Gardner for most of his career is pretty much insane. Two trucks. Kids. Lexi, voice down. I can hear you.
Okay.
Let me see real quick. Oh, yeah. So we have all these insane characters, but Peacemaker is one of those that he's not only insane, but he has full blown, not just conversations, he has full blown arguments with his deceased father, his deceased Nazi father. So
Yeah.
he just,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, in this own issue, was it in this issue or in the previous one, where he's like shooting things up that his father is nearby? It's like, no,
yeah, this right here,
that's not really healthy.
His dad was in front of the building. He was shooting missiles at his dad, blowing up parts of the building. He wanted to destroy anyways, but yeah, it was just funny the way that.
Definitely a dark humor moment there.
Oh, very much so. So I don't have much thoughts on him at this point. What do you think? What is your thoughts about the villain, the milk killer that's going around killing people? What's his name? Flowers? Yeah. What do you think about him at this point?
Oh, he's just creepy, but creepy pants. It's like, oh my gosh. You see the guy at everything you got. He's got the sides of the head shape, but the big mop of hair on top. And it's like, with sunglasses on, all the circular sunglasses on all the time, and he just oozes creepiness. You just like do not want to be in the same room with this guy. I don't know how he can manage to get around as a subtle person. It's like he just stands out as a gross character all the way. But he's got that, and he's almost got that. But he does have like that understated and somewhat suave way about him that gets across that this is how he's able to do what he does. He can get around and find his targets because he can keep himself kind of under the radar so effectively. And he's got that almost like several pages, you can see like there's a little smirk on his face when he's talking to people. Like on page 9, there's this little smirk as he's walking away from the airline. And it's like, ew, you just like, oh, I hate you. I don't care if I don't know anything about you. I hate you already. So he's just a really crazy, really easy character to dislike. He's a very good villain to dislike. And it's funny how little he actually is in the issue. He's not in the issue a whole lot. We had last issue more where he was actually like performing some hits. He was getting some kills done, and here he's just like moving towards his next target. We know his next target is that Checkmate scientist, but it's kind of funny that on like page 17 we're dealing with that Checkmate scientist. I guess we're led to believe that the knight who's meeting with him was about to try to poison him until the coffee cup got spilled. But that's not, and I don't know if that's supposed to be Flowers that's managed to infiltrate Checkmate by that point as pretending to be a knight. I don't know. I don't know.
No,
I don't think so, but it's a crazy.
I believe that's Bishop.
Yeah, that's what I assumed that's supposed to be Bishop, but it's bizarre.
Because you have the scientist, the Professor Braddock. He's talking about how they found a piece of hair stuck inside Bishop's helmets, and they can use that to like a fingerprint for it really is. And so that's Bishop standing behind him, going to poison him. So this has nothing really to do with the Taker story. It's just we switch back over to the Bishop not storyline, and Braddock is he's real excited because he figured out he's on the way to figure out who Bishop is. And that's why they leave our knight silent, because one of the suspects can't talk. So if this guy's talking normally, that tells us, well, it's this guy. Or they talk in a hoarse voice, it's this other guy. So they keep him quiet. They keep him to the shadows or his head covered to keep the mystery longer of who actually is Bishop.
But it's interesting to have like this one scientist is definitely being a target for both of these storylines. So yeah, that's interesting. It's an interesting thing to see happen. That's usually not going to be. That's usually what you'll be going on there. he'd be targeting like a different person, but it's like, no, there's like Bishop has a reason to kill this scientist. Flowers is on his way to kill this scientist. It's like that poor guy, and he doesn't know any of that's going on. So I'm kind of glad he doesn't, because boy, he'd be a basket case, I would think.
Very much so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You got two different people trying to kill him for different reasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of puts you on edge.
Yeah. If he knew of both of these, if he knew of both these guys, yeah, he'd probably be hiding under his bed.
Mm-hmm.
Or but maybe not. He's a checkmate scientist. Maybe he's used.
Yeah. Yeah, but he's a non-com, so don't expect him to be too much ready for that. But I was also looking at the that related to Flowers is more like the unfolding mystery of that Andre Mazarin character. Was like we saw a lot more of him and of Christopher Smith. Say Chase. I'm sorry. Psst, that's wrong, Christopher. Trying to nail down who hired Flowers and see if it really was Mazarin who did so. We see a lot of that unfolding, and boy, Peacemaker really reads him the riot act. That was some pretty intense scenes going on there. So, what did you think about that part of the story?
Oh no, I loved you. I thought it was great. The fact that Peacemaker, I think, because again, Peacemaker loves peace, as he says here. So he loves peace so much he's willing to kill for it. So I really love the fact that the guy he's actually going after is a friend of his that he thought was an ally, and so he's got the ghost in quotes of his dad haunting him. Plus now he's got to go for a friend who's actually a bad guy. That's very much plays into the psychological aspect of who Christopher really is in his mindsets. And besides his own series, at this time, he wasn't getting much love besides Checkmate. I think he shows up later on in Live. I'm not mistaken, but so yeah, I definitely love the love, I guess, that Paul gave to Peacemaker in this.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of that whole thing with him, talking to his ex-friend, who he doesn't know who he is, that very last panel where Marsden's watching Peacemaker fly away, and just that look on the guy's face as he's watching Peacemaker fly away, and he's like, perhaps Peacemaker will meet up with the field agent. What a surprise in for. And just that grin on his face at the very end. It's like, uh-oh.
Yeah. That's major creepy face, major evil smile.
Yeah.
You almost hear the wah coming out from him afterwards.
Oh yeah, very much so. Well, I say, knowing the storyline, I say I'd love this book to begin with. That's why I'm doing a podcast on it. But yeah, this whole Bishop mystery and Flowers mystery, both kind of maybe going to tie together some points. Very, very good. It's very, I say Paul did a great job writing this whole thing out. And as we've talked about, Steve Irwin's artwork on this is just magnificent. Mm-hmm. It's very, in my opinion, realistic looking for what they're doing. Yeah, I think the artwork's very good. It's not, because again, I'm the type that likes the more, again, in quotes, realistic. I don't like when they get too different, too artsy with the artwork for the most part. Mm-hmm. I mean, sometimes it works like on the Max work, but yeah, I like more straightforward artwork on my books usually. So I think this was fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Steve Irwin was really doing a great job. It's like bring us some very realistic looking artwork to the characters. Their facial expressions are really great. And I also just got to give Alve, I think, props for doing a good job on the inking, not making it too heavy, giving some good clean lines overall. Without that definition, it wouldn't look as sharp. So I think he did a great job on all of that.
Oh, that's very much a fault I have. I tend to credit the penciler with a lot of the awesome work, but you are correct. Alve's inks, yeah. If you have a bad inker, I'm sorry, if you have a bad penciler, a good inker can make them look good, and vice versa. If you have a good ink penciler and a bad inker, it can make the work look bad. So both Steve and Al together did a fantastic job on this, and then the coloring on it is also fantastic. Because again, you could have this awesome artwork, but crap coloring on it that makes it look really bad. So it's kind of like I said, and that's, I mean, I've had this talk before with people that, you know, a lot of people say, well, you know, comic books, I prefer the writer, I prefer the artist. Like I said, I prefer them both to be good, because that's what comic books is. It's the artist, the inker, the penciler, the colorist, colorist, plus the writers all mixed in together. Because without a good writer, with a crappy writer, all you have is a picture book.
Yeah.
And with bad pencils or inks or colors, you might as well read a novel. And that's what I like about comics. Combines all that into one medium. And when they're both, like on this book here, when they're all working in tandem and they're doing their job like they should and doing it excellently, you get an excellent product.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So,
this group was obviously a really good team. They really synced well. Yeah, and it's like it's fine. I mean, I have a hard time actually critiquing inking. I recognize it, but I have a hard time critiquing it. So it's like, it's one of those things that I'm not really that good at in my own eye. But it's also one of those things that I appreciate on its own, and can kind of look at the whole package with it a little bit. In that, you know, the inking and the coloring and even the lettering are all things that, you know, that have complement the penciling in a way, you know, and if they don't complement well, that's a bad thing. And also, if you have bad work in any of those fronts, they detract from the story. No matter what you do, they're going to pull away. So it's like they're almost important because you shouldn't notice them. It's one of those funny things. Their measure, you know, it's like their measure of how successful you were is the fact that nobody notices them or complains about it. So it's frustrating, because it's almost like it turns into a thankless task in that way. But when you are able to pay attention to it, you go like, man, you always do such great stuff. You know, that's the best compliment I would want to give, like, especially like our letterer here, Johnny Max. Like, I'd say like, man, your stuff was awesome. Looked great every time. Right. You know, I might not be able to tell. I'm not going to critique letterers that strongly, but I can tell like, hey, I always liked your stuff.
And like I said, that's one problem I have, is that I tend not to thank the colorist, the inker, the letterer, unless they're doing a bad job. Then I'm like, well, this is horrible for this or whatever reason. But if they're, like they said on this book here, they're doing a magnificent job. They're working together, and I kind of all group them together. And I give credit to Steve Irwin when it's all of them. Like said, we working like for my opinion, for instance, the Milestone books back when they came out in the 90s. I wasn't a fan of them because, in my opinion, it was too heavily inked. It was too dark of a book for me, and I thought the inker, and again, it was the inker's fault. It may have been the way they were instructed, or it was just too dark and it was too heavily inked for me. Again, some people enjoyed it. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to relook at it because I've heard a lot of good stuff about them. I just get past the ink job on that. So. Well, unless you have any other thoughts on this issue here, I say it's a good issue, but I mean, I've got a lot more thoughts on the Suicide Squad issue for obvious reasons we'll get to. And I'm sure I'll have more thoughts on issue 25 of Checkmate next month, seeing how it's the wrap up of the Bishop mystery. But do you have any thoughts on this?
Oh, it's interesting also to see in general how Paul Kupperberg was kind of, you know, bringing all these characters together. We have the one knight who's having like a romantic liaison with the nurse at the hospital, and that's going on, and as well as the interrogations of the two knights for who is suspected for being Bishop, and how that all works together. There's so much stuff going on there. You know, it's like it's so many things being pulled. It's like I'm wondering how many of them are actually going to resolve together and how many of them are going to resolve separately. It's like a lot of pieces going together. It's like, man, I almost kind of go like, I don't know how Paul kept the ball straight. He must have had the poster board with the Post-its and the thumbtacks with string to keep it all, because it's pretty complicated for a monthly comic. There's a lot to keep straight here. So it's an interesting story. And I'm just like, yeah, it's for what it's doing. It's like, it's a build up to number 25. And I definitely want to see what happens in 25. They've done a good job of getting me there. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, you're right on that. Yeah. I mean, by a lesser skilled writer, this many subplots, and again, not necessarily subplots, but these many plots going on in one book. Try again. This many plots in one book can really bog down or get confused or be a mess. But I think Paul is such a skilled writer that he's able to get all these different storylines, juggle them all. I don't know if he had I'm gonna have to ask about that. If he has a board at home with like a conspiracy theorist with lines string all over the place and little notepads or whatever. But yeah, no, however he did a great job so far of keeping all the balls in the air and making sure it all just ties in nicely. We'll find out next month, I guess, how well the balls are still juggling. But
exactly. And I obviously missed the obvious thing in that he would, for this book, be using a chessboard, obviously, to keep track of these various things.
Okay, that's Checkmate. Podcast. I'm never going to do it again. I missed that. So yeah, missing the obvious. I'm going to have to hand it over to somebody else now. Sorry. Yeah, no, that was a fantastic call, Tim. That's great. See, and that's why I have you on here to catch these obvious things that I missed.
Well, I didn't think of it before now. Geez, what the heck?
Unless you have any other thoughts on this issue, we'll go ahead and put this to bed for now.
No, I thought nothing else. Just a fun issue.
Yeah. Sounds good. So I'm going to move on and do my character profile for this issue. Then I'll have you come back in a little while and we'll talk about Suicide Squad.
Woo!
And then I'll go ahead and I'll do my character profile later, do a commercial break, and then I'll bring you back in.
All right.
Suicide Squad. Get this pulled up.
Okay.
Come on. Okay. So are we ready to begin, sir?
Yes.
Okay. And welcome back from the break. Definitely check out those shows I played. Some great promos I just played. Great shows. I love them. That's why I play the promos for them. And let's go and move on to our final issue for this episode. We're going to be looking at Suicide Squad number 36. Back with me is still Tim. Tim, welcome again. Thank you for staying with me for this segment of the show.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. This is the Apocalypse storyline's a big deal with Suicide Squad, so I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, like I said, we talked about before the show and previously. I know you said you offered to be a full-time host on here, and then you're like, wait, I may be overextending myself. I'm like, you know what? This is the end of the Apocalypse now. I've got to reach out to Tim. He was on last episode talking about it. So I've got to give him at least, first crack at being on this.
And I appreciate it because, yes, I did want to do this one. Since I did the previous issue, the setup for this one, it's like, no. I would have been disappointed if you haven't asked me. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Oh, anytime, Tim. So let's go and get on to this issue. This is Suicide Squad number 36. The cover date, 1989. The on-sale date was November the 7th of 1989. Cover price was $1. The title of this was called In Final Battle. The writers was John Ostrander and his wife, Kim Yell. Penciler, John K. Snyder III. Inker, Jeff Isherwood. Letters were Todd Klein and John E. Workman Jr. The colors was Carl Gafford. And the cover was done by Jeff Isherwood. The editor on this was Dan Raspler. And this was reprinted in Suicide Squad Apocalypse Now trade paperback, which came out in 2017. So for our synopsis, And again, the synopsis and all this information came from Mike's Amazing World of Comics. I modified the synopsis just slightly. The Battle of Apocalypse has seemingly ended with Lashina rejoining the female Furies. The Suicide Squad has lost. However, some of them are still fighting. Count Vertigo stabs Kanto in the back. Nightshade returns from the shadow dimension with the unconscious body of Artemis. And then Bronze Tiger reinforcements arrive with the help of the Forever People. Dr. Light has accompanied them after being egged on by the ghost of Jacob Finley, who's his ex-partner. The battle resumes. Dr. Light is killed. Flo is killed in the crossfire. Finally, Darkseid appears and calls to an end to hostilities. He resurrects Bernadette, then congratulates Lashina for earning back her place. However, he punishes her for bringing the humans to Apocalypse by evaporating her. Darkseid offers to resurrect Flo and the others, but Waller refuses. She knows that the resurrected will be his slaves. Darkseid then sends the Suicide Squad on their way away from Apocalypse, sending them all to their, in quotes, home, which I'll cover more next month. But note on this, Jacob Finley, which is Dr. Light's ex-partner, last name is given incorrectly as Smith in this story. The last time he appeared was in Secret Origins number 37. That issue was released on December of 1988. It was the Secret Origins of the Legion of Substitute Heroes and the Secret Origin of Dr. Light. I actually covered the Dr. Light Secret Origin over on Ryan Daly's Secret Origins podcast, episode 37. An interesting note, that Dr. Light story was written by Craig Boldman over in Secret Origins 37. And in that story, they kept referring to Dr. Light as Dr. Smith, but his name is Arthur Light. So it's funny that over there they called Dr. Light by the Smith, and then over here they called Finley by Smith. It's just an interesting little, and it wasn't by the same writer. It was different writers doing it. It's just odd how Smith kept popping up.
Well, I guess it also shows that Dr. Light gets so little respect, they can't even get his last name right. But there you go.
And his real last name is the same name as his superhero name.
Yeah.
So it makes it even more, I guess disrespectful. Yeah, they can't even get his. That's hilarious.
Might hand wave that as it's Light is his Arthur Light is an alias, and it's not really Light. It's really, but it's like whatever.
Well, and that's what Mike's Amazing World, it makes a note of that they're wondering maybe Light's a fake name or something else. But I just thought it was odd that over there they called him Smith. In this book they called Finley by the name of Smith. It's just odd how Smith keeps popping up,
right?
When it belongs to neither one of them.
Oh yeah. Well, and then
so anyway,
his name itself should be more obviously, kind of relating to A Christmas Carol and Jacob Marley. So, because that's what he comes back as. He comes back as a ghost to haunt Arthur. So it's like it's pretty obviously Finley and Marley kind of it's little similar, so it kind of gets the parallel there. But.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and talk about this issue. Let's actually start the cover. The cover of this, I'm gonna play my cards on the table right out front. I love this cover. We get the backside of Darkseid as he's watching. We get Waller and Flo in the back on a bowl, Blaze of Glory at the bottom, and standing forefront, probably the most heroic and dramatic he's ever been his entire life. We have Dr. Light standing there making a heroic pose, light beaming off his hand, like he's ready to face down Darkseid. He's going to take out Darkseid no matter what it takes. Again, I've already said it's a great cover, but let's get a little more thoughts from you. Tim, what are your thoughts on this cover?
It's gorgeous for all those reasons that you just said. It's a fantastic cover. And just the contrast of how bright Dr. Light is and the depth of darkness that Darkseid has right there side by side, light and dark literally side by side. It's just a beautiful image of a cover. And I had read the Secret Origins issue that came out before this, so it was like where that really cemented the current interpretation of Dr. Light by this point. But even like the previous appearances before that in Teen Titans and other places that kind of were showing he's not really the villain that he once was. Seeing that kind of arc happening here, it's like we know that this guy's a loser. We know he's a loser. He's been a loser in Suicide Squad for all the appearances that he's had in this comic so far. And to see him in the center of the issue, in the blaze of glory thing there, we'd seen the hints of that back in issue 34 when the Apocalypse mission was coming along, trying to get the rescue team together. So seeing this, it's still like, whoa, really? Seriously? And then you read what happened to him in the story, and it's just hilarious and so sad. But it couldn't have gone any other way. The story couldn't have gone any other way. But yeah, so this cover is just wonderful, and I like this issue a ton. This issue is so much fun. In fact, just so you can see, and our listeners can't see this, but if you look at my cover, you see it has not one but two signatures on it. It has John Ostrander and John K. Snyder, who signed my issue. And it's just I did that at Baltimore Comic-Con in 2018. So it's a fantastic issue.
Hold that back up.
Sure.
If I can.
Do you want to get a picture? I can just send you a picture of it.
I was going to do a screenshots.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. There you go. I got it. Okay, thanks, sir.
Sure.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I've got a screenshot. So I'll post that on the Facebook page and the website anymore. It seems like everyone really goes to except for spammers. But that's this one entirely.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of posted my G.I. Joe page. I'm like, does anyone actually go to the website? And no, I just get it from Facebook. I just get it automatically from my feed. I don't. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Any other thoughts on this cover?
No, I don't think so. It's just it's got a great, surprisingly heroic pose from Dr. Light, and he really does look good on the cover. Just knowing the character is what throws you off. Because this is not what's happening here. And Darkseid, he's like, he'll squash him like a bug. What? But then the hints of what we're actually going to see on the true tragic side of the cover, seeing Flo and Amanda on the side there, it's like that's hints of what else we're going to see in the story too. So that also is why I really like this book and this cover itself. It kind of gets all the things, but get the tragic drama and the seriousness of facing Darkseid, and just you have to laugh at the situation for Dr. Light. It's all there on the cover. So
very much so.
Wonderful.
Very much so. Yeah, I do like how they're all staying on top of all the bodies, these parademons. While, again, Dr. Light's, like I said, standing heroically, ready to face off against Darkseid, which, as I covered in the synopsis, doesn't work out too well for him.
No, it really doesn't.
But anyways, let's go ahead and let's cover the actual issue. Try that again. Cover the actual itself. Let's go on again, since you're the guest. Tim, what are your thoughts on this issue? I'm going to let you start.
Sure. It's really a surprisingly deep arc for Dr. Light. He goes from not wanting to be involved to taking the plunge to be a hero, and tries to make a big stand. And spoilers. If you don't want to hear spoilers for this issue, he gets killed by parademons right away.
We're gonna spoil the hell out of this.
Yeah, he makes a big heroic flight into the sky to, distract the parademons and try to attack them. And He just gets taken down by a huge cross section of ray beams, and that just holes through his body, and down he goes. And that's it. That's it for Dr. Light. He's just that's the end. Meanwhile, the ghost of the previous Dr. Light, his friend in quotes, is there laughing that, yay, I finally got you killed, you moron. Now I can go to heaven. And then we have a whole page of the afterlife with the ghosts of the two Dr. Lights arguing with each other, and Arthur Light saying to Jacob, you can't go to heaven. Ghosts who get other people killed don't go to heaven. And it's like, it's also beautiful because that shows that the quote unquote heroic Jacob Dr. Light didn't think this far ahead. And then we finish it with having the very pan-like demonic entity who's there, who's put this whole thing together, and his toady is trying to ingratiate himself, saying, "What a beautiful plan, master!" And the master's like, "It's so pathetic. Why do I bother? We've lost the war with heaven. All I have is this meaningless dribble to base time for all eternity." It's a hilariously dark comic moment. It is black comedy through and through, which is not that much in Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad will have, light moments, tongue-in-cheek moments, and things that kind of and little winks to the audience. But usually it's not outright, and sometimes they'll have outright humor, like the whole Pie Man storyline that's still going on. That's outright humor.
Yeah.
But they usually don't have dark comic moments in Suicide Squad. But that's all this is. And it's executed beautifully, from just the story there, and Snyder and Isherwood's work on the artwork here. Since John K. Snyder has the layouts, I'm thinking maybe he didn't do so much pencils. He might have done even less penciling work than he normally would have done. But more like the character designs and the panel layouts, as probably more what he did. So this is a lot of Isherwood artwork, I would think. Isherwood is probably the primary on the artwork in this thing more. And it just, the whole bit on page 19 just is beautiful. It just comes together so well. From how ethereal the ghosts look to how terrifying and ugly the devil/demon is there. It just comes together. That story, this puts the ending on the Dr. Light storyline in Suicide Squad pretty well, and just hilarious. So I had a few thoughts on it. Don't know if you noticed. I had a few thoughts on it. And I haven't even gotten to the other parts of the story. We haven't covered anything else in the story.
It was
yet.
just Dr. Light.
It's like, of all people to be going about, it's Dr. Light.
No, I agree 100% with you. I mean, that's one of my notes on here. I've got the last one had 4 or 5 notes. I got 11 notes on this issue to bring up. Just because, it's a great. As I said, this is a great issue. I was really looking forward to this one. When I see this cover, I know what's going to happen. I remember the battle, and especially the Dr. Light versus Dr. Light scene, and then that demon or devil, whatever he is, talking to his little toady. Yeah, it's just, and I love the end of that panel there, that page, after they get done talking, and the demon's like, "Truly, this is hell." And then it says, "We now return you to our regular story." Just love that. Again, this is a serious comic. Suicide Squad deals with villains and B celebrity heroes and C celebrity heroes sometimes helping out, doing the dirty work that needs to be done, people dying, because again, their name is Suicide Squad.
Right.
But so it's just, and it has some humor. That the whole Pie Man thing that's been going on. It's going to next issue, but I just love that we now return to our regularly scheduled story. If this little brief little interlude about this demon talking about explaining how you fool, like you said, Heaven's already won the battle. We're just, I'm stuck with you, hating you. You're stuck with me knowing I hate you. And these two idiots are stuck together for eternity, hating each other.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's beautiful. It's funny when you mentioned that those caption boxes. The caption boxes are there, and there's one at the top which says, "We now pause for a strange interlude," and both that and the one at the bottom are in quotes. So somebody is saying these lines. I have no idea who. This is not the omniscient narrator. This is that they don't usually do that with quotes. So it's just bizarre.
Right.
It's not a normal thing in the Suicide Squad in general, and I just love it.
I didn't take that into account that there is quotes around that. I mean, I just love the humor of it, but yeah, the fact that it's actually in quotes means that someone's actually saying this, whether it be God or John Ostrander himself. I don't quite know who's supposed to be telling this, but yeah, this is not the narrator of most stories. This is some other third party that's letting us know what's going on. It's fantastic.
Yes.
And again, I said, and I know normally John does a lot of the main layouts, and then, if I'm not mistaken, and then when they worked together, then Kim went back in and did a lot of the finer points, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So again, I don't know who to give credit to on this. So I'm just going to give it to both Ostrander and Yale. They did a fantastic job on this. They also worked together on Manhunter for a little while, over from other show. But yeah, I just love. And it's sad that Kim has passed away, but yeah, her and John did a fantastic job on this book. I just love it.
Absolutely, yeah, they were great. They were a great writing team. I always appreciated that, and appreciated kind of how you could kind of get a feel. There was definitely a different feel to the books when Kim Yale was working with him on them. That I think she was able to bring in a little extra, kind of different depth to the characters, and it's like always you can see that just that stepping up your game when you have someone else to work with, Yeah,
it's very much.
Yeah, so it's good stuff.
Well, in my opinion, if you ever see John Ostrander,
go ahead.
If you ever see John Ostrander's name on a book, or if you see Kim Yale's name on a book, it's going to be a good book. But when you see the two of them combined on a book, you're in for a pleasurable read.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, we should talk about something besides Dr. Light.
I was going to say, oddly enough, there's other things happening in this book besides Dr. Light.
Yeah, there is. Just a smidge.
So I do love the first page. We get the introduction to the Forever People. Well, it's a bit exposition. It's a bit of a mouthful. I do like how they introduce who the Forever People are, just in case you're not familiar with them. They give each of their names. Yeah, I just think, again, that wouldn't work like in a movie or TV series, I don't think. Oh, maybe, because they kind of did that in X-Men movie, and I enjoyed that. So I just love the way that he's like, we're the Forever People. I'm Mark Moonrider. That's Big Bear in the driver's seat. People dreaming how to dream about this place, and Viking had a vision, and Stefan agreed that we should come. So, and here's a super cycle. So it tells you who everyone is. Like I say, if this is the first time reading or hearing about the Forever People, you know a little bit about them now. It's not going on this mission with this team of people you don't know.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I think they did. It makes about the only way we're going to get the team realistically to Apocalypse. So they were really helpful in that front. That's for sure. So I did, and had read enough of the Forever People's stuff recently that I was very familiar with them. So I knew who they were. It's interesting but they did take a little bit of a step back in terms of the character designs to be closer to their classic look from Kirby, because there were definitely some. But it's kind of like some of it. Well, I guess I should say like halfway. there's some elements of their character designs that still look like it's from their mini series from J.M. DeMatteis and Paris Cullins, which I loved. I mean, I know there's different thoughts about that, but it's like I love J.M. DeMatteis' writing. I love Paris Cullins' artwork. I feel like he is like one of the artists who channels classic Kirby, but makes it his own in a fantastic way. So I just thought he was a great pick for things that are New Gods related. But so he had some character design changes there. And they had appeared in Mr. Miracle's series, like half a year before this, something like that. So it's pretty, their last appearance was pretty close to this. It was not that far off, but you know, Big Bear looks closer to how he originally did, and his look was supposed to be changed. But Beautiful Dreamer is sort of a blend between, it's kind of closer to the newer look. So you know, it's good to see them there, and I think they did okay in terms of introducing them. They're still, you know, with 5 characters, there's a lot of characters to talk about there. You don't really have I think that throughout the issue, they do a good job of sprinkling in what the characters can do, who they are. They do weave it into the story pretty well. So if you don't know who they are exactly, you at least have a taste of it. And probably if you like them, you have enough to say, I want to learn more. You know, you don't feel completely lost. They're not completely mysteries. But so right. They did okay, but it was hard because it's a crowded issue. Suicide Squad's always crowded anyway, but this makes it even more so. So I give them props for the fact that they managed to get, you know, any taste for these characters in the short period they had was just really good.
Oh, very much so. And maybe I'm the wrong person to do this podcast because it seems like all the time I'm just praising, like say Paul Kupperberg on Checkmate and Austin Danielle in this book. I just, yeah, I think they're John and Kim. Again, I don't know who did the dialogue. I don't know who did the how they broke it down exactly this issue, but yeah, they're fantastic. I just love, and like I said before, a lesser writer, that introduction page may not have came out as well, but I think John and Kim pulled it off rather well, like you said. It's just fantastic.
Well, it's also funny to see them try to. It's fun to see the whole team try to pile into the super cycle on a page like page 5, I think it's page 4, and it's like there's a lot of characters that we're trying to do in here, and that's where it's like, okay, they did a good job of communicating how crowded the cycle is, but they actually did not succeed in showing all the characters that should be in the cycle. We're missing a few of the Suicide Squad on that picture, but you know, that's a nitpick. You know, it's not easy to do. So, but it's a fun, and that moment itself is just fun because Big Bear's like, come on, baby, don't embarrass me in front of all these strangers. Until the boom tube comes open. So that's fun.
Well, in my fan wink, because that's what I do, for why you can't see all the characters, I think like Dr. Light and anyone else that's missing is sitting behind Big Bear.
Oh, I know that's where they. I know that's where they could be. I know, but
they're sitting on the jump seat behind Big Bear. He's such a large guy. It's kind of like me when people, you know, where's people? Oh, they're behind Aaron. Oh, okay, there they are. Never mind. Anyway, sorry for interrupting. Go ahead and continue.
No, I think I was fine. We just get the whole team going off to Apocalypse, and you know, we have Punch and Julie doing their bit, which is always fun. And then we finally get some scenes of what's actually happening in Apocalypse, and it's like Nightshade facing off against Artemis of the Female Furies and her 3 bionic wolves. And basically the wolves don't stand a chance against Nightshade's shadow demons. So that's a pretty brutal scene. And she stops herself just short of actually killing Artemis herself. But it's like pretty great moments. And then as she disappears through it, disappears through her teleportation portal to go back to Apocalypse, we see some ghostly, shadowy character reaching for her and disappearing through it as well. And it's like, gosh, I forgot if that particular plot thread gets followed through anywhere. I don't know where that leads to. But that's like, oh no, something there. He's, even though all these things happening and they're throwing in other plot threads along the way in the middle of this big apocalypse fight. It's like, oh, that was a pretty chilling moment.
Yeah, he ties the Apocalypse Now storyline here, but he introduces an extra, wait a minute, we're not done yet.
Oh, yeah. The Suicide Squad just keeps rolling. They definitely just keep things rolling, which is awesome.
Oh, very much so. Go ahead and continue.
Okay. Well, and so we have the Forever People and the Suicide Squad riding the super cycle through the boom tube. And yeah, we still have Punch and Julie doing their bit where we have a Punch did not have a very healthy breakfast. And so we have one of our classic Ralph moments, which is usually attributed to Boomer Butt, but here it's Punch. And we still get some more exposition from the Forever People with Suicide Squad, especially Viking and Bronze Tiger, where basically it's like, no, he sees death coming. It's like, okay, yeah, well, we've seen lots of bad things happen, but technically we haven't been sure if anybody's been killed yet. So that's still setting this tone, like what's on the way. And then we get to the battlefield in Apocalypse itself. It's like, oh boy, things are looking grim. Where it picks up right where we left off at the end of the last issue with Lashina's "Let's just kill them." That's a beautiful full page image. What do you think of that one?
Oh, very much. That's one of my notes on here. Is I love, like you said, this continuation of last issue where we left off with Lashina saying, "Just kill them." Basically, it's reprinting that last panel, but from a longer view. Granted, what should we do with these others? Oh, I don't know. Let's keep it simple. Let's just kill them. And we get Amanda Waller climbing up the rock face, staring down. Granny goodness. We get Mad Harry coming up behind her, and then we get all these others in various forms, either battle or they just won their battle. It's just, again, this is, like I said before, this is a poster-worthy page to me. I would love to have this blown up, put this in Manland as a poster, get the artist to sign this. This would be fantastic as a poster out in Manland. I'd love this. This is, you get the red and the Kirby Crackle in the background, the red and yellow, the orange, just to show that we're not on Earth. We get our major victory. He's got his shirts and costumes all torn from the battle. Flo's climb up on a rock, and her lab coat's all torn up and dirtied, and you tell she's been through the ringer. You get people laying there. You still get not Lashina, but
Big Barda.
I forget her name now. One that she killed.
Oh,
when the she killed last issue. Bernadette. Thank you. Bernadette still laying there dead on the ground with Barda with her Mega Rod back standing there. It's just, this. I could probably spend as much time slathering about this page as we spent talking about Dr. Light earlier.
Oh yeah, the Snyder and Isherwood just nailed it with this image. They really just like in another issue, this would have been the title splash page. But we had so much stuff to do with the Forever People to get to this point, so they had to get that underway, deal with Nightshade, and then boom, it's like, yes, we're back into the story, right where we left off, and he delivers it pretty dramatically.
And they could have maybe left the Nightshade for after this to bring her in, but with the whole getting the Forever People ready and getting the rest of the squad to the apocalypse, if it wasn't for that, this could have been a magnificent opening page. It's just fantastic. I go about this all day. I just sitting here love staring at it. I kind of think it's my background for a while. This is awesome. Just great.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I did have a note on there about, I love, like I said, the continuation of last issue plus just the artwork on here. And touch a few things you've commented on already. Yeah, I agree with you. I love the use of Punch and Julie. I love their banter back and forth and with other people about each other. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Page 6, I'm going backwards on my list. Page 6, we have the continuation of, as you talked about, the fight between Nightshade and Artemis. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right, but that's how I'm calling her, Artemis. Because last issue, they went off into the Nightshade dimension. We had Nightshade like, this is my realm, I rule here. And then when we first see them, they're basically continuing that exact same train of thought where she's saying, from a further back look, saying, this is my realm, I'm the queen. And then, Artemis like, kill for Darkseid. And Nightshade's like, no, again, this is my realm. I rule here.
You're in
and again,
my
like
house.
you said,
You're in my house. No, you're going to sit down.
Run's house.
Go sit your butt
Yeah, it's
down.
like you said.
It's terrible. It's so good. I'm sorry. That was completely inappropriate. But she just puts the smack down on her big time. Yeah, it is impressive. And also she's torn by it. That's what's also pretty great.
Mm-hmm.
That Eve is torn by it. She doesn't want to be bloodthirsty like this. And she has to like fight it. And she's like even saying that Catholic prayer as she tries to get herself out of there. So it's a great bit of moment there. Both the fact that how powerful she is and also how scared she is of her own power.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, she has all this power, and like you said, she doesn't want to use it. She doesn't have to, but when she has to, she can. But yeah, she is afraid of it and afraid of giving into it. And like you're saying, she could have killed Artemis there, but the humanity of her wouldn't let her do that. So that's why. Yeah, she's a great character. Mm-hmm. It's a great costume. I think I kind of prefer the older one better just because it's the skirt and I don't know, it looks a little more superhero-y. But great costume for what her powers are and how, she's the queen, if you will, of the shadow dimension. Mm-hmm. Queen's the right word because, again, she is fearful of it. But yeah, and then, we have the ending there with that creature, whatever it is, following her out. Like you, I haven't pre-read this, so I forget offhand how this is going to resolve itself. But you can, in a book called Suicide Squad, you can guess it's not going to be pleasant.
Be disappointed if it wasn't.
Yeah, true story. And also got a note here about, let me see real quick, just flipping back through my notes. On page 4, the previous note on this. Back to that, I want to see what you want to talk. Oh yeah, the Dr. Light, where he jumps in front of him. He's like, I'm Dr. Light. I have seen the light. From here on, where either gathers in the shadow of the corners of the darkness to threaten mankind and womankind too. There the light of hero shall blaze and get them good. So watch out, Apocalypse. From now on, heroism has a new name, and that name is Dr. Light. And he's like on the cover. He's very heroic, very, very menacing, you feel. And anyone that knows Dr. Light's like, what the heck? What happened to Arthur Light?
It is a very fun moment.
It's fantastic.
And doing his own name in the Dr. Light logo was also perfect for that for setting the tone of that kind of moment. It's like, that's exactly what that moment was like. And his speech there is like, sadly, it's like, yeah, that's about how good or bad I would be doing a speech like that. It's not good. It's not that good. He's trying so hard, but it's not good.
Superman, Batman, Green Lantern, they get up and make a speech. They make a speech.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Light gets up there and this and womankind too. And he's kind of drifting and he's doing rather heroically, but a little bit of pauses, a little bit of, going side to side. It's fantastic. I don't know who wrote that out, but whether it was John or him, I love that. That's just the dialogue in this book has always been great in my opinion, but that's just hilarious.
Oh,
the final comment on the about we've talked about previously already on page 3 with the whole Dr. Light versus Dr. Light, how the original Light is trying to convince Arthur to be a hero. They're at the bottom of page 3, where he's imagining him getting Apocalypse, destroying all the villains, and then all the heroes, championing him, our hero. That look on Batman's face. His hands clasped together. I missed that the first time through, even for the reread. As we were talking, I was looking through this and I noticed that. I'm like, oh, God, that's hilarious. Is that a giddy look on Batman's face?
Oh yeah, that's the best word to describe it. Yes, giddy. That's very good. It makes no sense except as it does work as perhaps this is how Dr. Light is picturing Batman looking in this moment. Yeah, I could believe that. Yeah.
But we all know how Batman really would react.
Yeah, pretty much.
I just love Dr. Light's interpretation of how they would look at him, and they'd praise him as a hero. I don't think so. It just cracks me up thinking about it. But that's my thoughts. What you already talked about. Let's go ahead and move on to the next part of the story, where again we go to Amanda Waller facing down Granny. What are we supposed to do? Just lie down now? You can stand up if you like. Makes no difference. The dialogue in this book, I just love what they do with this. But again, since you're the guest, I'll let you continue. What are your other thoughts on the rest of the issue?
Well, we get this sequence gets straight into a rematch of sorts between Kanto and Count Vertigo, and considering how Count Vertigo got really taken out quickly by Kanto, it's amazing that he's still alive. And he manages to just show determination that really is pretty darn impressive. This is more like superhero level determination, not super villain level determination. And Kanto looking so smug. I mean, look at his smile on the bottom of page 11. I was like, oh my gosh, that is so ridiculously smug. And then you turn the page, chunk. He's just with Vertigo stabbing him in the back with his own knife, which Granny Goodness applauds him for. She's like, I'll give you, I give you that. I take off my granny hat for that. That was that is exactly the kind of thing we look for in our army. So, but yeah, Vertigo takes him down that way and promptly collapses. It's like, wow. That's like, I would not call that necessarily an outright humorous moment. It's not really a joke moment, but it is darn amazing.
Well, it goes more that dark humor you were talking about earlier. I think it's part of that because not like you said, not aimed to be a humorous moment, but just taken in total, it comes out kind of humorous. And maybe because he fell unconscious, I'm almost surprised Granny Goodness didn't offer him a job right then on her team.
Right. Yeah, she was probably thinking about it, but she's probably going like, he's still immortal. He's still a mortal worm. Sorry. We're gonna squash you now. But yeah, and the bad news continues because then Artemis plops at her feet, unconscious from Nightshade returning. So it's like the tide is turning already. Up to then Barda standing up to her with her Mega Rod back that she's gotten back. Somehow she's gotten her Mega Rod back. We kind of didn't see when that happened, but she got it back because she should have gotten it back from Lashina. Lashina was the one who still had it. So I don't know if maybe Barda got a different one. I don't know. I don't know where that fits. Did you have any thoughts on that?
In fact, I forgot to go back and look, and I forgot to look at that. I was curious if maybe I wonder if Bernadette at some point, and then she just picked it off of her corpse. In fact, while you're talking, I'm going to go back and look at issue 35 real quick. But before we do that, I want to comment on. We talked about just a few minutes ago how Granny Goodness was very impressed with Vertigo stabbing Kanto in the back, with his own weapon. Whereas Nightshade drops off Artemis, he's like, "You look at him, you should have. I'm not impressed." I just love the way Granny's mindset is.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
they choose her words pretty carefully, which I also admire. Is that in the first bit where Vertigo's part, she says she admires it, but she's technically not impressed. And then the next page,
Right.
I'm not impressed. So we definitely had that clear division. And then we're going to have at the bottom of the page after Barda saying with her Mega Rod, better, but I'm still not impressed. And then the Forever People come bursting out of the boom tube. Yeehaw! So, it's like, okay, we got our Bruce Willis moment there. Yippee-ki-yay, MFers. And on the next page, Amanda Waller was one that says, I'm impressed.
Yeah. Real quick, going back to last issue about the whole Mega Rod.
Yeah.
So here on page 20, Lashina has it, and she uses the blast Bernadette. And I'm assuming at that point she drops it, because on page 21, she doesn't have it in her hands, and that's where she's snapping Bernadette's neck, and then she's holding Bernadette's body in one hand, and her other hand doesn't have the Mega Rod floating up in the air. And we don't see her with it again for the rest of the issue. So I'm assuming she dropped it at some point right there, and then Big Barda came and picked it up and said, I've got my Mega Rod back. That's what happened there, I'm assuming.
Very good. I'm impressed. That works. It all does all come together.
And that's why she's standing. Yeah. And that's why she's standing with the body, because that's probably where it was dropped at, right by her body. So
right. It's just I'm not paying attention. Apparently, I'm just not paying attention. Read this book for 30 years or so, and I'm not paying attention to things like that. Oh well.
I had to go back and look to make sure. I couldn't remember offhand myself, so I had to go back and look too. So I'm like, let me take a look. I just happen to have it handy, so I could come back and look. Let me see, what was that? Oh, there it is.
There you go.
But yeah, you were talking about the freedom people, the Forever People showing up, and the battle engaging. And I love there on page, some of these aren't numbered, page 15. Like, Ben! And Ben's jumping off, attacks him, going, Maury! And then we get Flo, Ben? As a tear. And then right behind her, we see a Paradine with a gun to her head. We don't see what happens exactly, but this is, we can assume, is where she gets it.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Because after I got done reading, I went back, well, did they show her actually getting killed? So I'm scrolling back to like, oh, okay, that's where it was at right there. Because that's the last we see her alive.
Right.
And I didn't see the Paradine behind her. I wasn't sure if he killed her or what. But yeah, apparently he shot her in the back of the head. Because again, as we've heard, Granny, approves of that.
No, exactly. Well, it's like she'd already been, and in terms of Lashina's whole plot, she was going to hand her over to Granny anyway, as either one to raise in her orphanage or just to have target practice for. But this is the middle of a battle, so all sorts of things happen. It's like, oh yeah, that parademon. There's nobody else there who's paying attention to Flo. That's been clear. Ben is looking out for Vixen. Waller is fighting parademons with her gun at the bottom of the same page. None of the other characters have even paid attention to Flo being there. So it's like, it's so sad that in the middle of this fight that she's all alone. That's where we get to like the dramatic, the tragic moment in the book here, is that she is the central tragic character here. She did this whole thing just to get Ben's attention and for him to see her as something besides, just a non-com in the team.
Right.
But and after all that, it's like, no, he didn't even notice that she was there.
Yeah, she dies with Ben leaping past her looking for another woman.
Exactly.
If that's not the exclamation mark on a messed up life.
Oh yeah, it's brutal. It's just brutal.
She came here to impress Ben, and not only does he ignore her, but she gets killed for her efforts, and she's basically forgotten.
Yep. Now I will also, and now actually going back quickly to page 14, I will give you props again for the statement about not seeing all of the Suicide Squad members on the Forever People's Super Cycle before, because there is a rumble seat behind Big Bear, and there sitting in the rumble seat is Dr. Light, and I think Raven. I think
maybe, I'm not sure who that's supposed to be.
Because that was one thing I also noticed as I go through the book, and actually see it more later, is that, and that's Raven with 2 A's, Ravan, not the Titans Raven with an EN. Raven.
Yes, I never know how to pronounce it.
Ravan.
Sometimes I pronounce it Raven, sometimes I pronounce it Ravan. Because I got that extra A in there. That do I throw that in there? I'm not quite sure.
He needs some sunglasses. He needs his Ray-Bans for Ray-Ban, and then you don't lose. No. But there's that we don't see it. That he was like, I think he was there like in one of the group shots at the end of issue 34, where the Forever People first showed up to give them a ride. Right. But we hadn't actually seen him in this issue yet. It's like there they are, both in the rumble seat of the back there, and that actually explains like why I couldn't see them in the previous issue, because like not only is Big Bear big, but I think his seat is higher than theirs. So yeah, but it's like, yeah, there they are, and there's like, and Dr. Light screaming his head off. Ah!
I love that he's screaming like a little girl.
he barely made it to Apocalypse before reverting back to cowardly state. He barely made it. So funny.
Like I said, it's not a humorous book overall, but yeah, some of these scenes you can't help but laugh at. Like I said, yeah, he's got this heroic pose. Let's go get him. And as they're lining on the planet, they're going to. Yeah. It's just hilarious.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, fantastic. But yeah, no, I also, while we're there on bottom of page 15, you already mentioned Amanda Waller shooting a Paradoon with a gun. And I just love that way. He's like, okay, ugly sucker. Let's see if your own weapon's going to hurt you. Nasty kick? Yeah, you'll do fine. I just love that little inset panel there of Amanda looking at the gun like, oh, yeah, this is going to work.
Oh, yeah. And the way you said it is exactly how I hear it in my ears about how she said that. It's exactly right. The dialogue and the look on her face perfectly, you know exactly how she said it. It's like there's no misinterpreting how she said that. It's beautiful.
And this is one thing I've complained about before, that I don't like the younger, the skinnier, the hotter Amandas they've tried to do over the years. I like this version of Amanda Waller. She shouldn't be some hot, super sexy model, whatever. She should be an overweight, short, stocky woman that, again, we can tell where she got where she's at because of her own gumption, her own stubbornness, her own she's picking up a gun on Apocalypse. She's an ordinary human. She has no power. She has no super special secret weapons or anything. Ordinary woman, just pure orneriness. And she picks up a gun. She, even before she had a gun, she was ready to take on Granny Goodness. And she picks up a gun. Oh yeah, I'm ready to kick butt with this. I just love Amanda Waller.
Oh yeah, it's perfect in this whole thing. And if she, with her visual look here, it makes her for a great counterpoint to Granny all along. We talked about that last issue, and it still works here. Is that with a different look, it's not as impressive, and she wouldn't necessarily look like she could actually hold her own. It's like, no, this is the version of Amanda who can go face to face with Granny Goodness.
Yes,
yeah, such good stuff.
And there on the bottom of page 16, we actually get Raven's first appearance in the battle, or however you want to pronounce it. And he's not really the main subject of this panel. Even though he's in the foreground, he's not really the main subject of this panel. In the background, we get Dr. Light's talking. Come on, it's your big chance. What are you waiting for? It's dangerous out there.
Yeah, go figure. The middle of a battle.
Earlier, he's like,
on the most the planet that is the most like hell in the universe, and it's dangerous out there. Yeah. Yep.
And again, just earlier, pages earlier, let's go get him. We're going to kick butt. Where evil has to beware. I'm Dr. Light. It's dangerous out there. Just a 180 from.
Oh yeah, didn't last long.
Where he was earlier. I love it. And again, that's very much Dr. Light, who he is. He's always been kind of a joke, kind of a lesser villain, if you will. But like I said, that's one thing I love about this book and the way John writes it. He takes a lot of these lesser characters or not as well fleshed out characters, and he's going to kill most of them off at some point. But before he does that, by God, he's going to make you care about him.
Yep.
One or the other. He's,
Oh yeah. Well, and that panel works also so well because he's in the background. It wouldn't have worked as well if if either Dr. Light had been more forefront. If it had been a close-up on, it's like no, it wouldn't have worked as well. But having him way in the background and this violent raven killing of parademon, it's like he doesn't have any superpowers, but he's just a lethal guy. It's like he's still doing better than Dr. Light.
Yeah, Dr. Light actually has the powers and the weapons. All Raven has is just he's got a master assassin and but that's all but he's still out there. Yeah, I love that look on his face, on Raven's face, as he's killing this parademon, whatever it is.
Right,
it's very serious. Meanwhile, we in the background we got Dr. Light, his knees shaking, and he's just all, but it's dangerous.
Yeah, we know who stole the show in this issue. That's what we're both saying.
Oh yeah,
yeah. It was Dr. Light and the Suicide Squad. That's an interesting comic title. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can. We also have some unintentional. I'm sorry. We have some unintentional teamwork happening with Deadshot and Seraphan at the beginning, where Seraphan's like trying to actually pick out these guys in a gentle fashion, and Deadshot's by freezing them with a freeze cartridge, and Deadshot's like, "Hey, it makes them brittle." One shot, and the guy falls to pieces. I like it. Hey, kid, toss another. It's like that's not what Seraphan was going for.
Though, speaking about books, maybe a Deadshot and Seraphim book might be, 4-issue miniseries. They're working together. It'd be an interesting book.
Oh goodness.
Hey, John, if you're listening to this, maybe you can pitch that to DC.
Oh, good stuff.
In fact, I may have to post that on John's wall. John,
you
got a few minutes. I have a new idea for you.
And watch, you'll say, like, I already wrote a proposal for it. He got shot down.
Oh God, I'm laughing over here. That's hilarious. I love that.
Speaking of getting shot down, the next page 17 is when Dr. Light gets shot down. So
nice segue. Very good segue. Better than what I was going to do earlier. So very nice. Yeah, I love Finley's in the background. I know these guys, they look tough. They're bigger cards than you are. Are you sure? Positive. Giving them a big rush. They'll hightail that up. I swear on my grave. All right, you creeps. Let my teammates go or feel the wrath of Dr. Light. Zap, 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 zap. Ook. Just right to the ook. He falls to the ground. I just love that.
And meanwhile, we have and the fight's still going on in the background.
Yes.
The fight is still going on. None of them noticed that Dr. Light's fallen. None of them are trying to help him. It's just, no. He's just casualty. Just got himself killed.
Much like Flo, he was forgotten, killed without anyone noticing at this point. So eventually they will notice. But he's looks like his shoes have holes in them. I don't know if that's from wear and tear, if that's actually shot him through his foot. But I'm assuming as many blasts are going. In fact, actually, I see one there on the previous panel. Yeah, one's actually going through his foot.
Right. So, yeah. They did a great job of all that.
And if you look at that middle panel where he's getting fried, if you look at his face, that's just a great shot of his face there. That's just. Oh yeah,
I'll raise that by just his whole posture. Is that that not natural?
Yeah.
It's so horribly awkward. It's like, ooh, you're done. Ow. Yeah.
Even if the bullets weren't killing you at this, or the lasers weren't killing you at this moment, the way your body's posed there, that's gonna do it.
Yeah, that's a sign that that bad things have happened. That's all.
Yeah.
So delightfully awkward. Just conveys that so well.
Very much so. Yeah, in that battle in the panel next, we get Shade forming the former Dark Side again. The rest of the battle just going on. Just like you said. Meanwhile, Dr. Light's fallen to I think fallen to his death. But I think he's already dead. So his lifeless body is falling to the ground. No one even noticing it.
Mm-hmm. But it's like he's still got we got the moment of it. Unlike Flow, where it's like off panel. It's like, that's this is very much there to, like, say, cement the dark comedy of it. Flow's moment is not dark comedy, so it's off panel.
Right.
So very deliberate choice.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, he's very deliberate. Yeah, Flo dies. We show someone coming up behind her. Next time we see her, she's dead. She's someone we care about. We want to actually see, survive, and maybe she deserves to be avenged. She's a nice girl.
Yeah, we haven't
she
seen
gets
it
off
yet. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or Dr. Light, the coward, the one that he's so worthless. He gets beat up by teenagers. In fact, I think it was the little boy's blue that ended up putting him in prison that led him to this series. So it just
exactly. That was in one of those middle bonus books. That was in that middle bonus book.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember which comic that was in. Was it in a Flash comic? Maybe.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that sounds right.
That's what I was thinking. As we're talking, I'm using my Google skills to see. But
your Google foo.
Yes. But then the next couple pages is like we talked about previously, Dr. Light talking to Jake Finley.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole, you set me up. You knew this would happen. Of course I did, you pathetic dweeb. I've been trying to get you killed. Now I have. So now I can rest in peace in heaven where I belong. And we talked about this in Osm earlier, but the whole strange interlude. Like, why am I still here? What's going on? That's just great.
Oh yeah. That was it. Yeah, this whole sequence is, like I said, was just beautifully done. But even though giving a little extra highlights to it, it's like on page 18. It's like, it's crazy how close we are to the end of this book. When I started seeing the numbers there, it's like we are really getting close to the end of this book. But the fight is still going on in full force. I have a big fight happening in the background. We get a little shot of Poison Ivy over there. She's standing near Deadshot, who's firing at people. Stompa's coming down. Vikings using his powers. Mark Runerider and Big Bear are there. Bronze Tiger and Vixen and Major Victory. It's like it's all around this whole middle inset panels, and it's like, and then there's Dr. Light and his dead body, just like his hands are like in rigor kind of dead insect position, and his mouth is wide open, eyes wide open. It's like, oh, that's bad. But then his ghost is there talking about it, so that makes it funny. Because his ghost there complaining about it, it's funny then.
And just to interject real quick, it was Flash, the Wally West Flash series, issue number 12, May of 1988.
Oh gosh,
Dr. Light bonus.
Oh wow, that was so. Let's see. Yes, that was okay. I thought Flash's series might have been further along by now, but no. In this month, it was still in issue 34. So, that's 2 years ago from Flash's series. Yeah,
and Flash, Suicide Squad, and Justice League all were pretty much on the same track.
Yeah,
as far as issue wise, because they came out around the same time.
That's right. I should have known that. I did, because I was buying all of them.
yeah, same here.
I should have known that. I was buying all of them. They all started right after Legends. So exactly. Their issue numbers would be all lining up. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And as I'm looking this up on the internet and Wikipedia. I went to the Dr. Light link, and interesting that his bonus book was in Flash number 12. His first appearance was in Justice League of America number 12.
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't know if that was planned or if it was just accidentally that way, but yeah, I just thought that was an interesting little quickie.
I guess that depends on how what the decisions were about where to put those bonus books. I don't know how that really worked. They were kind of random. And that one was like one of the least tied to the book in question. Just
the rest of them, there was.
Yeah.
In fact, looking and Action Comics had Superman Jimmy Olsen, The Flash had Dr. Light, Doom Patrol had Celsius, Wonder Woman was Amazons, Detective Comics was Batman Poison Ivy, Warlord was Jennifer Morgan, Justice League International was Mr. Miracle, Big Bart, and Oberon, Power of the Atom was the Atom, the next Flash, issue 19, was Blue Trinity, Suicide Squads back in issue 21 was Bronze Tiger, Detective Comics was Batman versus Mr. Freeze, Wonder Woman was the Amazons, and Justice League International 24 was the Blue Beetle, Booster Gold, and Maxwell Lord. So really, yeah.
Yeah, so this was kind of it's of all the kind of things to have in those bonus books. This one was pretty out there.
Yeah, it was still a good book, but yeah, it wasn't. He's fought against the Flash because he's been a Justice League villain, and he was a Teen Titans villain, so I guess maybe not quite, but yeah, it's a little more off than the rest of them because the rest pretty much tie in to the main character, where this one's kind of, he's fought him before, so I guess. But yeah, it's just an odd choice.
The only explanation I have for that is that I believe that Dr. Light's the previous appearance I remember from Dr. Light before that issue was an issue of New Teen Titans, which featured Wally West and Francis Kane, and the two of them took him down without wearing costumes. And he actually didn't even know that who he was fighting, because a lot of the time Francis was using her magnetic powers to make metal things that hit him, but he didn't see who was doing it. And that was one of the issues that kind of cemented that he's not really that good a villain anymore. Why is he doing this? He was actually going to give it up. It was like that was actually the point of that end of that issue. So that's the only thing that tied into Wally West. So that's the only connection to Wally West.
There is a connection, but it's not as strong as everything else. And that's what I'm assuming. Yeah,
exactly. It's really out there. And like, little boy Blue and Flash, really? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, looking. So I can't remember. I remember that he fought the Little Boy Blues, but I couldn't remember whose story it was. But it was a Dr. Light story in there. So, again, and that's the only thing I can think of. Because he did fight the Titans. Flash was a member of the Titans. Let's put the two of them together. Whereas everything else, had more of a coherent theme than that. So, but this isn't about the DC bonus book, so let's go move on to the Suicide Squad.
Well, I think we're just going to change the name of the podcast to the Dr. Light Cast. I think that's what it is. I think that's the thing.
That's so we he's dead here. Never mind. I guess not.
The Light Force X.
If he ever comes back, no, they would never bring him back. Oh, and they never retcon his.
Sure. Wink, wink.
Never going to retcon his history. That never happens. Never ever happens. Anyways, back to this actual story. Let's stop about Dr. Light since he's dead and now in hell with Jacob Finley. Well, I do like, Darkseid shows the battle's still raging, but Darkseid shows up and says, okay, that's enough of this BS. What's going on here? Because Barda has Granny Goodness on the ground. He's like, explanation, Granny. Expiration, Granny, in blood. Darkseid's like, I think not. Explain your conduct, Lashina. It's like, well, I killed her. I'm in charge now. You're right. You are in charge. You are in charge, but why did you bring these humans here? Well, you do it. You silly woman. You're not me.
Oh, yeah. That's a very chilling scene right there. It's also like...
Yeah, I said silly woman. Like he did it because she's a woman. That's not it at all. He did it because he's Darkseid, and anyone else, no matter who it is, would have gotten the same treatment.
Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of characterizations of Darkseid with how he deals with Desaad that are just like this.
Very much so.
Oh, Desaad, yes. I do that all the time. You are not me, Desaad. And that's usually just like this. That's why on the next page, Lashina starts running. She's seen how this plays out before. That's exactly what happens. Desaad gets zapped by Omega Effect right after this, every single time.
That look on his face. I'm sure the tone of his voice. If Shag was here, he'd do a good job of it.
Oh, yeah.
You are not me. Oh,
but Lashina, you are not me. But we just can't do it. We can't do it. Shag, we bow to you, Shag.
Shag's the master at it.
Absolutely.
Yes, very much so.
What's great in this scene is just like picturing in your head that, okay, Darkseid is dad coming to break up the party. It's like, that's not Darkseid either, but that's definitely like a vibe you get. It's just like, you all have, okay, enough's enough. I want to know what's going on here.
And yeah, it's just like, they're on his planet. They didn't ask his permission. He doesn't want all these lowly humans, as we talked about previously, clearing up his planet, unless it's one of his schemes.
Mm-hmm. Right. And just Darkseid's really not part of this story. Darkseid's just here to end the story, to end it. He just is there to clean things up. It's Darkseid ex machina.
Yes, I was trying to think how to phrase that, but yeah, that's a great way of saying it. Yes, because he's got no part in this. I mean, it's all his subjects versus the Suicide Squad, and he just shows up and says, "You know what? We're done. Lashina, yes, you get promoted for killing her, but this is your punishment for bringing these humans here. Humans, go back to your own worlds." And he's just there to clean things up. Okay, my people have died. Let me bring them back to life. And I do like that he does offer to, because this panel here on page 21, where Amanda Waller's cradling Flo's body, girl, why don't you stay put? Hey, how do you expect me to explain this to your mama? As just, again, Amanda Waller, as I've talked about, every episode I've talked about Amanda Waller, she's a hard as nails woman. She's doesn't back down from anything. She's had her family members die. She's, been through the ringer. She can face down Batman and Darkseid. Hang on a second. Got a plane landing on my house.
Oh, okay.
Oh, he's flying over. Yeah. Well, we're in the path of an airport.
Oh, okay.
West of us in Fresno, the next big town over. But it's airplanes have to go this way for the most part to land there.
Well, at least it's better than a beagle riding a doghouse going overhead. That'd be really annoying.
That'd be hilarious, though.
That's another image where, how many times has his doghouse gotten shot through all those bullets? It's like, oh man, just like what happened to Dr. Light, except they don't hit Snoopy.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Snoopy, yeah.
World War I flying ace. Sorry, gotta get his name right. The World War I flying ace.
And then when he's ready to go, his doghouse is ready to fly again.
Oh goodness.
Okay, that's good. So. But yeah, I love this. I say Mandalore is hard as nail. She's faces down Batman and Darkseid all the time. Well, not all the time, but she can't face down Batman. She's down Darkseid, Granny Goodness. But here, her family's died. She does all this other, dirty work that needs to be done. But here at the bottom of page 21, where she's holding Flo's body, it doesn't look like she's crying. I don't see any tears per se, but just the look on her face.
Mm-hmm.
To me, screams emotions. She comes across hard as nail. She doesn't, you mess with her, she'll slap you down. She'll set the bracelet off and kill you if she needs to. But when it comes to a civilian, a family member, she's got a huge heart.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, that's part of her whole origin. She talked repeatedly how much of her family she's had to bury. So this is not a good moment for her. You can see it all the way.
Yeah, no.
And what I love about this panel is that we have all the other characters and they're in the background and they're kind of like deliberately fuzzy. They're deliberately indistinct. So you can see them, who's who, but you can't see their faces that clearly. But even their body language tells you who is upset about this and who's not. And like all of our hero characters are all upset. But then the villain members of the squad, they're like, yeah, okay. What about me? Deadshot looking at arms, not looking to the side. Poison Ivy checking her nails. It's like, okay. It's like, oh yeah. It was a great job of just getting some character out of the figures with such small figures to work with. Great job.
Right. And I get that with Poison Ivy. She look at her nails like, oh, whatever, And I was wondering about Deadshot. I'm not quite sure on him. Is he looking away because he's bored and ready to move on to the next thing? Or is that his way of showing like a sign of respect? I know him and Amanda has had their differences, and he's not a big fan of Amanda Waller. But seeing how Flo was, in quotes, an innocent, and she shouldn't have been here, but she was killed, how much of that is just boredom or disrespect, or how much of that him looking away is actually a sign of respect for Deadshot?
Interesting. I hadn't really thought about that. You might be right. I did kind of take it as a, he's like, well, the fighting stopped. What's going on? Yeah. Or like, well, I'm just going to keep my eyes open in case something else comes along that I need to be out for. Nobody else is paying attention, so I'm going to keep my eyes open. I kind of, he can do, but that's something with Deadshot. He could do both at the same time.
Yes,
that's definitely something for him.
And that's I first read the way I talked about it.
He doesn't like it quiet. I know that's one thing for Deadshot. He does not like quiet.
Yeah, but I first read it when I read it and look at it. That's what I see is maybe he's turning his head in respect. But then when you make your comments, I'm like, that's actually very true, and that could be it too. So I'm a split mind on how to take his reaction there. I'm not sure if it's A, he doesn't care and he's looking out for trouble. B, he's showing kind of respect and he's kind of looking away to give Amanda this piece, a final moment with Flo, if you will, or maybe a combination. He's giving her that moment, but he's also, like you said, keeping a lookout because they're on Apocalypse. Just because Darkseid has showed up and said it's enough doesn't mean it's necessarily over.
Right. Oh yeah.
And then there's that the next panel over where Darkseid's like, there's no need for explanations, human. What I did to burn to death, I can do for you. All your dead shall live. And it's just his face is in shadows, just his hand sticking out, and his eyes are just glowing with the trails of Omega beam, whatever, just drifting off of him. That's another fantastic. While there's very little, quote, art to it, it's a fabulous page of art.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's very sinister, menacing, and also just seething with power. It's like, and you know that he can deliver.
Yes, and not be disrespectful, but it doesn't seem like it would take a lot of art to do that page. But having said that, I think it takes a lot of art to do that page, a lot of talent to do something like that because it's very simple. But it conveys the not necessarily emotion, but the fear that Darkseid can put in somebody. Just way between the arts, as we talked about with Checkmate. The coloring, the inking, everything on that's just hand in hand. A great panel.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get, the next, unless you had something else about that. It's the next panel, we get Dr. Darkseid. I'm trying that again. On the next panel, we have Amanda Waller saying, no, I don't think so. I read your file. They come back as your slaves, and that's no life at all. They've escaped you. I'll let them stay free. Again, just more Amanda Waller, just her no-nonsense take on life, if you will. You know what? If you bring them back, they're your slaves. No, they're better off dead.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, it's a not surprising moment from Amanda Waller, though. It's like she's being the control person. That's not the kind of thing that you would do a bargain with. She would not do bargains with Darkseid because she knows she can't really. She has no leverage on him. She'd be indebted to him. So that's another thing where it's like, no, she's not going to do that. But it would have been an easy out for Flo, though, for the characters. Like, and I think they wanted to make sure that we knew that no, this has weight, this has importance. Flo's been with us for almost the beginning of the series, and this is the end of her story.
And not all comic book deaths are serious, if you will. Even Robin, Jason Todd, Bucky, they've all came back to life, but this is kind of Amanda's way of saying no. She's going to stay dead.
Mm-hmm.
And not only is it her way of saying, well, I have no control over this, so this is my control. It's also like we said, she knows that if they come back, they're going to be Darkseid's people, even on Earth, even away from his grasp, if you will. They're still going to be under his control. And for one, she wouldn't want like Dr. Light being on her team and being possibly under Darkseid's control. And for another, her family member, she definitely does not want that. Her family member being one of Darkseid's minions, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely.
And I do like here where he sends them home, and it doesn't particularly say anything in particular, but it does say, being all of you, the living and the dead, it is Darkseid's will that you return home, wherever your homes may be. And we don't find out exactly what that means till next issue, but I like the way that kind of ties up another plot point that's been hanging around for quite a while, which I'll talk about next month a little more.
Oh yeah, that's a good line.
Because it also shows
it's nice and subtle. It's subtle. It doesn't really give away the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you just read that as written, you could mistake for what he's saying. He can send them all back to Earth. But as we'll find out next issue, things happen. Mm-hmm. But then he just turns the gray. He's like, your charges perform admirably. After all, they were only mortals. And again, they have a little conversation there in Darkseid. I have no mercy, but ideas and plans I do have. These mortals are now my pawns, and willingly or unwillingly shall do my will. The implacable, inescapable will of Darkseid. And it ends there on that. Again, just the top half of his face is in light, the bottom half is in shadows. Again, another I don't know if this was John and or Kim's instructions to do this, or if this was the artist, either the inker, penciler, color, where the decision came from. But I think this is a magnificent end to not only this issue, but this whole Apocalypse Now storyline. And it's not just that, but also I say it ends Dr. Light's storyline for now. It ends the whole Lashina Duchess thing. It all these threads that John has been juggling in the air for a while are starting to be tied up. Not everything. There's still the Mad Pie, Mad Pie or whatever to be taken care of. He's opened up a new subplot or storyline or something with whatever it was that followed Nightshade. But a lot of the storylines, if for some reason, for instance, this series had to end right now, this would be a nice end of the series.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, it's not ending. We're like almost halfway through it, but yeah, this is a nice stopping point, if you will.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. It does a great job for. It's a beautiful moment. It really is. I don't want to be, of course. If it's been the final issue, it'd been like because they're still wanting to like see the resolution of what actually happened to our cast of characters from here, and not have let this be the true end. But yeah, for the storyline, oh, it's a beautiful conclusion, and it's like I even see this going all the way back to Legends, because Darkseid was the big bad behind Legends at the very beginning, and that's where the Suicide Squad came from. And it's like, even having it all the way come through here, it's like involving Lashina, that was a fallout of Legends, and so they were like, and the Suicide Squad kind of like being the secret weapon against his plot there as well. This all kind of comes. It feels very much like something that Ostrander had in mind, very much from that very beginning series, or like roughly that this was going to lead up to this.
Right.
But it's also like, and that's the thing where, like, as we said here, like I called it the Darkseid ex machina. It's like, no, he's not really worried about this, about what's happened here. It's, I think it's almost like a deliberate choice by Ostrander and Dale to have it be like, yeah, it was a big bad fight, and the only way they were going to get out of here was to have Darkseid send them back. So we'll just have Darkseid send them back, and really do it deliberately to make it be to make it feel like a Deus ex machina. It really feels like it's that, and I don't feel like it's a way to wrap up. It wasn't done to wrap up the story. I think it was done to make it the story.
And again, as I've said, I say this all the time because again, I love Paul Kupperberg, I love John Ostrander and Kim Yale. A lesser writer, it may have came out as, well, how do I end this? Crap, they're on Darkseid's going to get rid of my guess. But the way John's or Kim or whoever wrote the dialogue on this, he's like, this is a mercy. This is part of my plan. They are now they are my pawns now. That last dialogue bit of line he has there says that, this isn't just something. How do we end the storyline? I ripped myself in a corner. Darkseid, let Darkseid get rid of him. No, this is deliberately planning of Darkseid. I said this could wrap up the series, but it's not, because you got this dialogue in here that says, wait a minute, he's got something else planned for Darkseid, apparently.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's in this book or somewhere else, this says this isn't the end. Even though right next to it says Finn, which means the end. No, this isn't the end. This is just the end of this chapter, not the end of the book.
Well, it's like, if you include Legends, this makes this like a 42 issue arc. That's a long arc. But yeah,
very much so. And it's a great arc.
Yeah, it just comes together also beautifully here. And it's like, boy, it would have been cool to have some more New Gods things from Ostrander with how well he handles the characters of Apocalypse. But I mean, honestly, I don't remember there being any more Apocalypse involvement or New Gods involvement with the Suicide Squad's stories after this. I think that that this is like the finishing of that part of their involvement with the team.
I don't know if he planned on other things or if this was all elsewhere. That's why I say, he may not follow up here, but it sounds like he's setting this up to come somewhere. I know. I'm trying to think. I think Darkseid was a big part of. Wasn't he part of the Genesis storyline?
Yes.
I tried to wipe that one out of my memory. So.
Yeah, Genesis,
I'm not quite
Genesis involved New Gods, that for sure. It definitely had a lot of New Gods.
Okay. Yeah, I may ask if I can reach out to John and ask him if he remembers this at all, and if he had plans, or if there's something else I should be reading to follow up on this. Because,
I don't know if I take it. I don't know if I take it literally. I don't know if I take the literalness about following up about it being some more about that from what Darkseid said, or if it's just that it sounds cool for Darkseid to be saying.
Yeah, and I took it again, knowing John. I took it as maybe he was going to follow up on this, but maybe it's just a really cool line. I'm curious now. Because I know in a couple of issues, they're going to jump ahead a year.
Right.
In the story. So I don't remember. Yeah, I don't recall this ever coming back up in this book. So I may have to see if I can reach out to him and see if he'll talk to me about it. If he can explain maybe. Something for the future, maybe.
Right. Well, as any good
Yeah,
writer, as any good writer does, I'm sure he has all sorts of ideas. They don't all come to fruition. So he probably had ideas, but just saying this in this issue doesn't necessarily mean that he had a real roadmap to get to them.
Or maybe he had a plan for the future and they canceled the book eventually before he got to it. Maybe, who knows? It's
sure,
things change all the time in comics.
Mm-hmm.
Just because John had an idea doesn't mean he was allowed to carry it out.
Exactly.
But that ties up this issue, the storyline, and this episode of the podcast. Do you have any other thoughts on either Suicide Squad or Checkmate before I let you go?
No, I don't. I think I've taken enough of your listeners' time.
Enjoyed having you on here. But real quick, the next issue box. I don't touch on this very often, but I will mention it this time. This is in just a month. We'll be presenting the aftermath of this 3-parter, which has essentially changed the Suicide Squad for good. On the one hand, the ages-old Duchess subplot has come to an end, but so has Flo's life. And what of Briscoe and Sheba? Next month, Johnny Kim take us on a tour where the changes have been brought about. And to top it off, we close off 2 major subplots of the series. It has since around issue 16. One of them, of course, is the much heralded conclusion of the revelation of who is the Mad Pythor. Very few guessed identity, and now is the last chance for guesses. And then they also pimp the Firestorm book that was being written by John at the time. Again, while it was very much a different book than what previously, I loved John's take on it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I preferred the original better, but what John did with it was different. I think I may have liked it a little better had it been a different character, just because I loved the original version of Firestorm. But I think John, for a book that was started off really and at this point was kind of sagging in sales, John took the book and I think he gave it a much-needed revitalization.
Yep, I would agree with that. I did just finish a complete read of that Firestorm volume over like at the end of last year and the beginning of this year, reading it all the way from issue number 1 through issue number 100. And oh my gosh, I love the Jerry Conway stuff. I never really read it before, and it's like I was just loving it, but it was kind of petering out at the end. And John Ostrander's, I'd read a lot of the Firestorms, but I hadn't read all of them. There were issues here and there that I'd missed. A couple issues in a row that I would have missed here and there. But getting to read the whole thing, it's like, man, I just was having a great time with that. And I can see with the complaints, and I can understand maybe not like the new character design that came out of it, but on the flip side, having read what the stories were, I was entertained big time. I enjoyed it a lot, and I kind of could see it as a progression of the character as well. So that kind of worked too as an evolutionary.
Very much.
So so I can't speak highly enough of his Firestorm run as well.
Well, I said Firestorm, I used to watch him on the Super Friends. But my first comic that I bought with Firestorm was during the time when it was Ronnie and Michael was Firestorm, and that's where was Ronnie during the Vegas with the Sand Monster. Yeah, that was my first, like issue 74, something like that. That was my first issue of Firestorm off the stand.
Oh,
I got it near the end of it. And then I went back and started, because that was on the stand. I'd gotten to comics right before that. I thought, I remember Firestorm from the Super Friends cartoon. I like Firestorm. I'm going to pick this up. And I ended up buying all the back issues and reading the whole run, the original 5 issues. I bought the trade paperback of the original with the 5 issues plus the unpublished 6th issue. It's just, as I've said elsewhere, Firestorm is one of my 2 favorite heroes, him and the Atom. In fact, Shag's show is one of the things that got me into podcasting. And in fact, if Shag didn't have a Firestorm podcast, I would probably have been podcasting about Firestorm. So
there you go. Nice.
So, and I think depends what Shag does. If he can get back on the set, get some more Firestorm episodes out, I may start that eventually. With my other half dozen ideas. But
oh man, how are you going to find the time?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out right now. I've got 8 shows right now, plus I've got half a dozen other ideas I want to do eventually. I'm like, well, I can fit this one in Head Speaks. I can do this maybe when one ends. Checkmate's get in at some points. I maybe do one instead of that. Suicide Squad's going to end at some point. Now I got a show for that. I don't know. I'm maybe podcasting the day I die.
Oh my.
But again, yeah, I was talking on my Facebook page with a friend about all lives matter and stuff, and Black Lives Matter and all that. Not to get political or anything or on that tangent, but one thing he brought up was like, about comic books. You kind of look the same way that all comic books should matter. And that's my problem though, is that I love all geeky things. That's why I've had Speaks for anything I can't get to, I can do on there, but I still don't have enough time to do what I want to do. Mm-hmm. Have a dozen different shows I want to do, but yeah, I'm already up to 8 right now, and I'm trying to find time to get those done. Plus, well, where can I squeeze these in? Anyways, enough about Firestorm, because this isn't a Firestorm podcast, oddly enough.
No, it's Dr. Light podcast.
Any other thoughts on Dr. Light and Dr. Light and Suicide Squad podcast?
May he rest in peace.
In fact, now that you mentioned that, we've talked about it a couple of times, I'm reading this episode to Dr. Light and the Suicide Squad. I had a different name for it, but I'm retitling this as now.
Well, it's better than calling it Dr. Light and the Forever People. It's like, nah.
That would probably get no listeners.
Yeah, you really get hurt for that. That would hurt pretty badly. So yeah, don't do that.
But yeah, anyways, so unless you have other thoughts on any of this we've talked about,
nope.
We'll go ahead and let you go. But before you go, Tim, I'm sure you've got more going on than just talking to me. If people want to hear more about you or hear more from you, where can they go?
Well, the best place to find me on the internets is Twitter at TimPrice17, where I just post my various, geeky adventures and ramblings. And if you'd like to hear more podcasts with me, I'm a regular co-host on the Batgirl Cassandra Cain podcast on the Right On Network with Ashford Wright. And you can find that at the website, thehuntress.podcast.com, because the feed is shared with the Huntress podcast.
Very good. And I'm just playing with, I'm live streaming this, so I'm just playing a little bit with some of the features on here. But yeah, no, thank you again very much for being here. I really enjoyed talking with you, and we'll have to see if we can get you on here again sometime. I know, again, you're a busy man with your own podcast you work on, plus I'm sure you've got a life that doesn't deal with podcasting.
A non-podcast life, yes.
But again, thank you very much for being here. As far as me, if you want to hear more about me, as usual, all my shows, or most of them, either are on or going to be on the Headcast Network, its own feed, and they each have their own individual feeds. I have Head Speaks, which I talk about, as I talked about earlier, comics, anything I want to, geeky. I'm going to be starting right now in the middle of the Armageddon 2001, the follow-up series. I've just finished up issues 3 and 4 of Armageddon Alien Agenda. I'm going to be starting Armageddon Inferno. Once I'm done with those 4 issues, then I will be moving on to The Power of the Atom. And I see that look on your face, Tim. Again, I'm a bit of a glutton for punishment and a bit of a completist. That's why I'm doing those 2 miniseries.
Well, I enjoyed Armageddon Inferno, but Alien Agenda,
it was okay. I didn't hate it as much as everyone. Like I say, we got, as I've talked about before, us podcasters are on a podcast, little chatter Facebook thing. And I mentioned that, I'm like, I had guests on from again 2001. I'm like, well, I'm doing Alien Agenda. Anyone want to show up on there? I've never seen that chat so quiet.
Well,
people are hiding in a raw.
Saying something when, I was not on the chat group at that time, but just for a contrast, I was on a podcast discussing Countdown to Final Crisis.
Yes.
And I still would pause at doing Armageddon, the Alien Agenda, just for contrast.
Yeah,
I'll let you take that I'll let you think that over.
Oh no, very much so. Yeah, no, I can't disagree with you. And again, I've just released, by the time this comes out, I've just released the last part of that. And having reread it, again, I'm going to say I don't dislike it like everyone else does. It has its problems, a lot of them, but it was, I'm going to say it was okay. I won't go any further than that. It was okay. But yeah, definitely check that out. But enough. I've also got my G.I. Joe. He says, moving on quickly. G.I. Joe Real American Headcast comes out the second Tuesday, where I look at the G.I. Joe comics and cartoon from the late 80s, early 90s. The third week of the month, I have this show here, Task Force X, where I look at the Suicide Squad and Checkmate books. The fourth Tuesday of the month, I have my Starman Manhunter show, which I've had Tim over on as a guest on, where I look at the Peyton Starman and the Mark Shaw Manhunter. Now it's just the Mark Shaw Manhunter, because I'm done with try that again. At this point, I'm just looking at the, one second. My daughter's here. Do what?
Oh, okay.
No, it's not dinner time yet, for one. And second, we'll probably do dinner in a little bit. We're going to Fresno, so we'll probably fix something up. So wait. Again, you only eat at 4:30 when your mom's home at 5. What? Something small and quiet, because I'm still recording. Almost done. Kids, teenagers.
Oh, I know.
Anyways, back to what I was saying. The third Tuesday of the month, I have the Starman Manhunter Adventure Hour. I guess I should just call it Starman Adventure Hour, as I'm only talking about the Will Peyton Starman right now. I'm debating whether I'm going to do more other Manhunter stuff. I'm still kicking it around. And then I've got my newer shows. Well, the fourth Thursday of the month, I have the Bravo Team, which is a companion show to my G.I. Joe show, where we look at anything else G.I. Joe related. One second. What's wrong?
He's like, tip on it, and I see a bunch of mold on him, and I open it, and it just...
I'm recording still.
Sorry.
Tim's hearing you talk about your moldy peaches. Tim Price is hearing you talk about your moldy peaches. So, quietly. So, on the fourth Thursday, it used to be on Tuesdays, but since I've got 8 shows now, I decided to spread them out a little bit more. I have Bravo Team, which is a companion show to my G.I. Joe show. We look at anything else G.I. Joe related. Going back to the beginning, the first Thursday of the month, my new show is the Starbright Project, where my wife and I look at the Quantum Leap TV series. Great show. The second Thursday of the month, we're looking at Voyagers, under Voyagers cast. And again, no, this is not the Star Trek Voyagers. This is the time travel show from the 1982. Again, my wife's never seen that, so I let her watch the first episode, and she really liked it. So we're podcasting about that episode by episode. And then the third Thursday of the month, we have, again, my wife and myself have Retrospect of the 80s, where basically, in case you can't tell, I'm a big fan of the 80s. That's where we look at anything else involved with the 80s. So they're all on their own feeds, and they're either on the Headcast Network or they're going to be soon. My newer shows, I'm not on there yet, but I'm working on getting them on there properly. So check the shows out. And there in the background, you hear my noisy teenage daughter, almost teenage daughter, but that's going to do it for this episode of Task Force X. Join us next month where we finish up the Checkmate, the Who is Bishop storyline. And in Suicide Squad, we find out who the Mad Pie Bomber is. But thank you again very much for joining me. I guess until next month, squad mates dismissed. And that'll do it.
All right.
Now I'm done recording, honey. Again, thank you very much for your time. Yeah, it's getting almost 4:30 here, so it's what, 7:30 your time?
Yeah, it is.
So maybe if you have some time, maybe you don't mind doing the behind the podcast with me. I'd love to talk to you about, your podcasting career and all that.
Oh,
and look at it. That's my daughter. She's 12. She's 12 going on 16.
What?
Awesome.
She's
okay.
an anime.
I have twin girls that are 15 going on 16. So
I'm sorry.
No.
I thought having one's bad enough.
No, they're great. They're great kids. I have no problem with that. They're great kids. I have nothing to complain about.
Person going around the house trying to.
But I really do need to. I do need to be going
Yeah.
after all. So.
Okay, yeah. Well, thank you very much. And like I say, if you do want to talk about the next issue of Checkmate, finishing up the Bishop storyline, let me know. We have a month. So if you have some time the next month and you want to do that, let me know. If not, that's fine. I understand. You're a busy man. But I appreciate very much your time, sir.
Sure. Thank you very much for having me on. I've had a great time talking about these issues.
Thank you. We'll talk to you later, man.
Okay. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
You too.
Who dat?
His name was Tim Price.